Hello friends and enemies, welcome to or back to Happy Pronounce Me. Isabel here with some Halloween recommendations, mostly bonkers. I've got a couple non-bonkers to throw in there, but here's the deal. I love a bonkers book. By bonkers, I mean sentient objects, weird things happening, and just overall a good time. I've done themed vlogs before. I can link to some of those in the description if you guys are curious. But in July, August, I did food. I've got an objects one on in future plans. But I, for one, would consider myself a lover and appreciator of bonkers books. So I thought, what better time of year than Halloween approaching? We are 2 weeks out now. Than to share some of these books that you could spend your Halloween, your Hallows Eve, the last 2 weeks of your October reading. None of these are that long either, so that also helps. A bonkers book cannot be too long. That is a caveat I have. I do think no bonkers book should be like very long. There's a handful of authors I'll give some grace to on that, but not many. Yeah, let's talk about my recommendations, and then I'll also tell you like the 3 I have on my radar to read the week of Halloween, so we'll see how that goes. Or the week leading up to Halloween, probably. All right, first of all, we have to talk about the fall classic. One of the earliest bonkers titles that I saw to be released, and that is Seduced by the Pumpkin Spice Latte. This book is bananas. This book is bonkers. This book is 13 pages, and it packs so much into 13 pages that I do think you should join me in having read it. It's slightly traumatizing. It's also just so weird because that pumpkin spice latte does not become sentient in any capacity. And I think that part alone kind of makes it worth the read because it's so uniquely different from the current sentient object books we have. So you definitely need to be picking up Seduced by the Pumpkin Spice Latte if you haven't yet, because honestly, it's the perfect time of year for it. And also, I think it's such a interesting peek into some of the older bonkers book titles. And that's all I'm going to tell you about it, because again, it's not very long. Then we have Hayseed by Vera Valentine. Vera Valentine is top tier bonkers romance, okay? If Vera Valentine gets it, she delivers on the premise and the entire like situation in these books. And it's so good. With this one, Hayseed, fantastic. This is a scarecrow romance in which they're at the fair for the fall, and a girl ends up like on the run from her ex who's really crappy, and the scarecrow helps her and comes to life. What more do you need? They also bang in the cord maze or whatever they're in. What more do you need? Literally. This was super fun. I really enjoyed my time with this, way more than I expected to. Scarecrows were never on my radar for a sentient object romance, but I was left happily surprised by this one. And honestly, I think this is one that's like really accessible to read because it's well written. Like, that's the thing with Vera. Hers are really well written, which makes them easier to recommend. But also big content notes here for like abusive former partners, because that is a big thing in here. But yeah, it does have an HEA. All of these have HEAs of sorts, we'll call them. So there's that too. So yeah, I feel like Vera is a great entry point for anyone who is wanting to try some of these. Next, oh my goodness. Okay, what if your Halloween decorations came to life? Because that's what happens in Monster Mash. And this one is also hilarious and delightful. This one's part of a whole series called like the 13 Kinks of Halloween, which I've not read all of them, but did read Monster Mash. And honestly, I had a lot of fun with Monster Mash. I think this is a really interesting setup. She's throwing a party. I believe no one shows up. She casts a spell and all of the decorations come to life, and she has a orgy with them. And I don't know what more you want from life in these books than that, to be honest with you, because it was bonkers, and it was a good time, and it's silly, and that's really kind of all I want at times. Next, we have one of the pumpkin ones. There's a couple others. I picked one because there's a lot of options here. More options than there should be. Let me put it that way. And that is Abducted by the Pumpkin King. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is another one, like, it's short, it's quick, but basically he stalks the field, and she's like walking through this field to get to another party or something, and he sees her, so he claims her to be his prize because he's the Pumpkin King and it is Halloween, and he gets what he wants. This was a fun one. Another one that, again, it's pretty steamy, but not too, like, it's pretty high on the steamy end. A lot of these would be considered like erotic romances, I guess, to people / humor erotica humor, whatever you want to call it. But this one was really fun, and I liked it better than some of the other pumpkin ones I read, because some of the Pumpkin King ones are weird and I don't love them. But yeah, this one, Abducted by the Pumpkin King, was just funny and silly and just enjoyable overall for the setup of like her walking across this field and him seeing her and be like, mine, and then they bone it out, because what else are you gonna do in that situation? I mean, come on. So yeah, this was really enjoyable and fun to me. Another one I can't recommend enough. Let me give you two normal-ish recs, okay? If you haven't read Scream Frost by Molly Doyle and you are into the Mask King, may I recommend Scream for Us. This features 3 heroes in various Halloween masks and them doing things with this girl. Varying levels of kink. This is definitely more a erotic horror sort of novella, I would say. This pushes the line a little more. And then there's a second book called like The Gift or something, a Christmas year one. So you could read this and you could read the Christmas one in November or December if you wanted. But yeah, this one I think is really fun. It's an enjoyable, quick novella, longer than these other ones, but still has enough steam and things in the plot to keep you engaged. And then the next one I'll recommend that is probably the lowest on the scale of like bonkers is Hollow's Grove by Lee Jacott. This one I really loved. This is a brother's best friend. They're putting on a murder mystery party and it's Clue themed. There is some fun primal play in this, which I love a good primal play scene, y'all. We know this. That is a thing I love. So there's some fun primal play in this, and there's also some really fun just banter and situational stuff with them and being in this house. They end up in a maze together, I believe, and bone while like trying to get through a like garden maze. So yeah, this one highly recommend if you haven't read it yet. This whole series by Lee Jacott has various seasonal themed books, and I actually this year am hoping to get caught back up on them. And then the third one is my like, I don't want anything that is too much anything, but I love Hocus Pocus. This is the rec for you, and that is Halloween Boo. This is like an oldie but a goodie, but again, for my Hocus Pocus people. In this one, her name's Danny, his name's Zach. He's a ghost, and he's in love with her, but the one small problem, obviously, is that he's a ghost, and it's them sorting through that and him becoming real. I do think it deserves all the attention and love, and is a great read for anyone who's looking for something like just Halloween-y enough without being too much, so to speak. All right, next, we're going to talk about the like 3 titles I have on my TBR for this year. I want to note 2 things here, like 2 big things here. There's an author you're going to see advertised a lot for Halloween books. Their name is Lila Faye. I don't read them. Their covers scream AI to me, and I'm just not comfortable with that. I do think, you know, sometimes you can read a book and it has an AI cover and you don't realize it. That's fine. But when a book cover, to me, immediately upon looking at it, screams AI and not just like some questionable Photoshop, I'm out. Like, I'm just out. I can't help it. So, on that note, I will not have any of hers on my TBR, but I did find 3 that I'd had kind of lingering and popped up for me as I was browsing that I would like to read this year. And one of these has been sitting there for a minute. So first up we have Halloween. I mean, hello. Is anyone surprised? This popped up in my suggested. You know what? I'm not questioning that it did. Of course it popped up in my suggested books. This is about 3 women and 1 occult ritual. That's all I need. I just needed the cover. That was all I needed, and I was like, okay, we're gonna have to read this for Halloween, obviously. Like, I didn't really need much more than that. Next, I have Riding the Headless Horseman. Listen, this one, I was browsing, I saw this cover, and I was like, oh, interesting. It's also only 50 pages, so like, again, that perfect length for these kinds of things to me. This features our heroine who is out for a walk one evening and stumbles upon, I'm assuming, the Headless Horseman, and rides the Headless Horseman. I don't know. I just think it looks fun. And then last but not least, the one that has been on my TBR for a bit, and I remember finding it after Halloween, and that is Not Today, Satan. This is an Omegaverse novella. This features a Halloween party and an Omega who accidentally summons a demon. That's like my favorite thing, right? Like accidentally summoning a demon, I think is like one of my favorite like setup tropes. So I'm here for it. I'm very excited to read this one. So yeah, those are some of my potentials. And then I gave you a handful of recs here. I would love to know if you have any recommendations for me specifically around Halloween reads. Let me know in the comments. And if you don't, you can leave me jack-o'-lanterns, ghosts, whatever Halloween item you want in the comments. I will have links to all of these books for you down there, links to my friend anywhere on the internet that I am, and I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye!
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get away. This is what we